Okay, I hope everyone's having a great day. Today we're just going to start off with a quick agenda. So we're going to start off with overview of how we approach the situation, who our target is, our solution, our implementation of the solution, how our plan benefits all parties involved, and most importantly, how is it going to be sustainable in the long term and looking towards the future. So we implemented our solution or approach our solution with the objectives in mind to improve sustainability in an economic fashion while also providing methods of poverty relief. With that in mind, we decided to pick a company, expand its existing infrastructure, and use consulting to apply our solution. That being said, our company we decided was Musa Moss, a fully integrated palm oil corporation that delivers innovative palm oil solutions. They are in a dominant in the industry vertical and control the supply as well, ranging from production and supply to distribution and products. But most importantly, they are the pioneer in sustainable palm oil production. They were the first RSPO certified company in Indonesia, as well as have executive board close ties with RSPO. In addition, they're the only company in Southeast Asia that is a member of the Palm Oil Innovation Group, which provides sustainable, innovative solutions to issues within the palm oil industry. They're focused on creating value, but most importantly, with the sustainable lens that we want. In addition, because of their size, they have access to a vast capital stream. Just quickly looking at their operations and financials, we can have some key takeaways, which are the amount of land that they controlled and their efficiency, which is about 90%, as well as their total palm plantation area, which is about 122,000 hectares. The revenue in 2019 was $7 billion, and we used some proxy indicators to reveal an emphasis on human capital and PP&E. We can see their crude palm oil the crude palm oil yield is 1.66 times higher than global average, which is fantastic for such a big company like this. And the next two slides are just how we sourced our information from the operations, which leads us to a really important question: is who is our client?
Okay, so with that, when we're selecting our client or our target for helping out and assisting and consulting, we wanted to choose someone or a group within the local region who was most in need of this and who would also bring the most benefit and the most value to our eventual plan. So with that, we settled on a group of independent farmers called smallholders. Now, smallholders are essentially individuals who farm and harvest palm oil. So each smallholder averages about less than 25 hectares per land, and these hectares are managed then by either individuals or by families and households. And the average on those households is about 2 hectares per household. And it's typically the either head of household or like the sort of adults in the household who manage and work that land. So with that, there are 2 key distinctions to be made between types of smallholders. First, scheme smallholders, and second, independent smallholders. Scheme smallholders are smallholders who work for Musim Mas. They're contracted by Musim Mas and they sign contracts and they agree to manage a particular plot of land and to sell their palm oil for a particular price. They also receive financial support and assistance from Musim Mas and from other programs affiliated with Musim Mas, and they also receive training in sustainable agricultural practices and crop management techniques, which overall leads scheme smallholders to be more efficient farmers. Independent smallholders don't have a lot of access to this. In fact, there are several drawbacks to being an independent smallholder. First is because they don't have as much financing, they use inefficient farming practices, which leads to both lower yields and an environmentally unfriendly alternatives. For example, one of the methods that independent smallholders typically use are slash and burn tactics, which release a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, and that's a major pollutant. Another thing about independent smallholders is because they're not contracted to sell to particular palm oil mills, they have to find those palm oil mills on their own, and they use middlemen in order to do that. But those middlemen charge very high fees for their services. Moreover, the mills end up actually paying them less money than they would to a scheme smallholder for essentially the same amount of palm oil because they're not under contract. So they're losing profits from many different angles. Moreover, the certifications for that remain an independent smallholder are very expensive. So with these problems, we believe that within the independent smallholder community, there's a lot of room for environmental, economic, and technological growth. That's why we decided to form our plan around them. So from a logistical point of view, what our plan is to integrate the independent smallholders under the scheme umbrella of the Musim Mas scheme smallholders. Now we're going to be doing that through basically four key pillars. First is we're going to be expanding local outreach to these communities by taking advantage of the local workforce and integrating that to basically build better relations with local communities and therefore have an economic advantage based off that. Second, we're going to be expanding financing. So we're going to be pragmatically investing in these groups, which can yield higher returns for both the company and then benefit those smallholders individually as well. We're going to be expanding the sustainable agricultural training that is already offered to scheme smallholders and offer that to the independent smallholders so that they adopt practices which pollute less. And lastly, we're going to help them with certifications and integrating them into the sustainable palm oil supply chain, which is going to not only build legitimacy for the palm oil that they produce by making it sustainable and environmentally friendly, but it's going to lead to long-term growth. What's really unique in our plan is that right now, Musim Mas has not done any of that sort of reaching out or recruitment. All they've done is engineered this scheme for smallholders, if they want to become a scheme smallholder, to do so, right? So we're taking the next step by aggressively and actively recruiting new smallholders and expanding their already small existing business model to try and grow Musim Mas's market share and to benefit the smallholders. So a little bit more details on each of these areas and what we're going to be doing. Within local outreach, in order to move independent smallholders into this scheme, we're going to need to build trust with them and build better communication with those communities. So we're going to be doing that through a few key ways. First, we're going to be reaching out to local NGOs who already have good relations with those independent smallholders, and we're going to be going through them to try and communicate directly and gain better relations. Second, we're going to be hosting focus groups for those local smallholders to try and gauge their interests and gauge their opinions on different things and see how best we can approach them by getting information from the source. And third, we're going to be hosting worker recruitment events to try and get them into the scheme umbrella and bring them in, introduce them to Musim Mas, and try and get them interested in working with Musim Mas. We're also going to be offering benefits programs as incentives. Musim Mas already offers benefits programs to its workers, so we're just going to be expanding that to offer it to the independent smallholders as well. We're going to get to costs at the end of this presentation. And the second thing is subsidies, right? The biggest obstacle to this is to palm oil farming is the initial cost of planting palm seedlings. And because independent smallholders don't have a lot of finances, they tend to use inferior seedlings. However, with Musim Mas financing, we're going to be able to give them better quality seedlings, which leads to a better quality product in the end and higher returns. With that, let's go on to the third point.
So in regards to, because the independent smallholders typically utilize inefficient farming techniques by forming contract with us, they're able to learn very sustainable agricultural practices with our training programs. For example, less pesticides and attempting to phase them out. And instead of slashing and burning to grow more trees, we will refertilize and plant trees on the same existing land, which creates better crops and will also be more environmentally friendly. In regards for RSPO certifications, these smallholders, once they become certified, the consumer will know that this palm oil is sustainable and will be covered by RSPO certifications. Some benefits include less greenhouse gas emissions, follow regulatory requirements, and have higher productivity due to prior training. So for the concrete benefits for the new smallholders, just going over a couple, they assist in meeting efficient farm standards by limiting expansion and urging replanting in the same plots. They also receive training in regards to financial and bookkeeping subjects and education on legal requirements. And these are just going over what we just said.
Okay, so now let's quickly address the costs, right? Looking at Musim Mas's revenue for the fiscal year of 2019, they generated $7 billion in revenue, which a significant portion of that was their profits. Musim Mas already pays a lot of benefits to its scheme smallholders, on average $389 per per smallholder, including income and benefits and everything, which is very good for the smallholder, because in that regional context, it's a lot of money and a lot of benefits, and it's also very cheap for the company itself. So if we're going to be expanding this to a new group, it's not going to be very costly, because $389 per head or per smallholder is not that major of a cost for a company to shoulder. So therefore, we think it's pragmatic and realistic. Also, some of the initiatives that we want to undertake, like the focus groups and the worker recruitment events, those on average, according to our research, cost about $4,000 to $12,000. So having a couple of those throughout the year to try and bring people in is also not going to be a big dip in our coffers, so to speak. So it's again, we think it's very realistic. And even the RSPO certifications cost around $2,400 per certification. So again, not highly cost effective, especially if we're sponsoring it and we're generating better returns as a result of having those certifications. So our future prospects for this is, like we had this information at the beginning. Currently, smallholders comprise 25% of the industry, but they're projected to comprise 60% of the industry by 2030. So with that anticipated growth, we want to tap into this industry of growers very quickly so that we can capitalize on that and benefit a lot. So our first year plan is we're going to establish the mechanism for bringing in independent smallholders into this scheme. And we want to bring in 50,000 new ones in the first year. Again, you couple that with how low cost these are per smallholder, it's not going to be a lot of money in the long run. And
Bart, we're gonna have to cut you off. We're at your 10 minutes.
On as much of that market share as possible. Currently, in total, there's about 1.3 million smallholders and only 150,000 scheme smallholders under the current scheme without any prior.
I don't know.
I think we can wrap up.
So our eventual goal is to bring in about 100 independent smallholders into the scheme per year. And future returns are projected to be very high as a result.
Wait, I don't know if you could even hear us right now.
Yeah, is he muted by?
Could you hear us? Yeah,
So,
that was time.
Hrishik,
That was time.
Are you there? You want to talk about the value?
No, that was time. That was time.
Yeah, so we're time up here. So we're gonna go for 5 minutes of Q&A now. I don't know if you could hear us before. Sorry about that. So we're just gonna go right into the Q&A. So judges, if you have your questions, we'll start the timer now for that.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think the Wi-Fi was a bit spotty because it was like lagging for me as well.
No worries. No worries.
So I'll go ahead and get started if that's okay. Very interesting proposition and interesting about the percentage of growth in the smallholder farmers. But have you looked at who the smallholder farmers are? You mentioned head of household. What's the difference between men and women, and how will your plan really affect them?
Well, so I guess traditionally, culturally within that region, it tends to be the men in the household who are doing the physical labor as the smallholders. There's not much we can do to change that cultural perspective. I don't believe we have the power to do that as we're or within the stream that we're functioning in. However, if we're bringing in more fiscal benefits and higher incomes into these households, we believe that the women and the men within those households are going to be seeing those benefits. Like, the health insurance benefits, for example, cover the whole family. So even the women in those families and in those households are going to be getting something out of our proposition.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say, in addition to that, I think that in terms of acknowledging those, I felt like our primary aim was by lifting the family out of poverty, we would be able to kind of close the gap, if that makes sense. And that was kind of our primary aim, to help the local population, the local demographics, rather than going towards like the corporatist strategies and employing corporations. That kind of made more sense overall. So by impacting the local family unit, kind of, we were hoping to accelerate the lifting of poverty.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Dan, I saw Dan's question for getting 50,000 new smallholders certified in the first year. The basic cost may be minimal, but can the existing certification scheme actually handle this many new certifications? If any of you guys want to expand on that, I can. But if you can, but I can also if you want.
I mean, I think I tried at least mentioning this while I was going over that. We believe it's a very reasonable cost. The certifications aren't that hard or like the standards you have to meet to get those certifications aren't that high. You just need to be going with, or you need to be utilizing sustainable agricultural practices. And the biggest barrier for the independent smallholders right now to employing those sustainable practices is the fact that they don't really know how to do it because they haven't had the sufficient training. By bringing them into this scheme umbrella, we're going to be training them in those ways. And once they're trained, they can start utilizing them. And once they do that, they're going to qualify for these RSPOs, which just basically define their product as sustainable palm oil. And then once we cover the cost of the certifications, that is going to be a loss for, not a huge loss. It is going to be a cost for Musim Mas in the short term, but in the long term, as a result of bringing in these new contract farmers and the additional income we're going to be generating off of that, these costs are going to break even over time, and then over even a longer period of time, we're going to be seeing a lot of profits off of that. So
yeah, also I just want to say, to quickly summarize, it was not 50,000 new smallholders certified. It was 50,000 getting involved, but certified, we're looking at about 2,000 by the end of the year. 2,000 getting actually RSPO certified, but bringing 50,000 into the program, if that clarifies the question.
Great. Could you go back to your budget for a second? I saw something Kretsch. Could you explain that and the figure that was associated with that?
Do you mean the budget, like for the company, or for the cost of the plan?
Right,
was
you
the
were looking at
cost.
the cost of the plan. If you could go to that slide, if possible. I just wanted to go over. I
Yeah,
saw
no
something.
problem.
let me see.
Can we go back?
Yeah.
Can we-
Here we go.
Yeah.
The plan,
Yeah.
I think, is better.
Yes. So what is Kretsch? And I see 90,000. The amount for that.
Oh, those are the benefits programs for those who are brought into the scheme smallholder program. And again, it kind of goes back to the idea of empowering the local population, whereas the alternative would be go to different corporations, whereas by bringing them into the scheme program, we can also give them benefits that are outside of just their product on agriculturally. So there's have all these different benefits that are included within the program that we wanted to expand towards the independent smallholders as they have more of the market share.
Isn't creche usually a nursery school before education, or care for children while parents are working?
Yeah. So so a lot of the benefits include education. I believe education, or the money allotted to like education nursery schools, is a separate in-kind benefit allotted to these smallholders. But yeah, that absolutely includes education. That absolutely includes nursery schools. Like, we watched this brief documentary about the context of these benefits. And education is a major thing that these smallholders get out of cooperation and contracting with Musim Mas. So that absolutely would be covered.
Awesome. Thank you, team. That's going to wrap up
Thank you.
the Q&A session. I'm going to stop recording.